The following is an exclusive original presentation of the 252 ESPN Radio Network.
The drive starts right now.
Starts right now.
Just living the dream.
Here's a guy who gets paid to talk.
Are you ready for the most electrifying man in sports and entertainment?
No, he didn't. I'm doing a radio show, so what?
The most anticipated radio show ever.
Right on three. 1, 2, 3.
Well, happy Wednesday. This is the Drive, East Carolina Sports Show. On your ride home, Sam Abeles
is in the building, having a good time today. I don't think I am necessarily enjoying these NBA playoffs as much as you are, but I will say that I am all aboard the Boston Celtics bandwagon. You have a partner here in the room now who is throwing my full support behind your team.
You're jumping on board.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I'm there. I'm actually really jealous of your team. I might be okay with swapping teams. You can have Philly. You can have Ben Simmons. You can have Joel Embiid. As long as I can get Scary Terry, Al Horford, and Marcus Smart, I will make whatever trade you want.
No. I am enjoying it, but they have been undefeated at home and continue to be. Let's wait. There's again, 2-0. It feels really good right now. In fact, I'm trying to contain my enthusiasm, to be quite honest with you. You know how I feel on the inside?
A little giddy.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably obnoxious to the people around me, I think. You know, because when being a sports fan, when your team is rolling, things are beautiful, right? I mean, it's and people around you are like, wait a minute, this is annoying. Why are you? Because you're not a happy person. I know you, Mark. This isn't you. But when I wake up now,
what is this?
And the birds are singing the way they're singing.
This sounds like the intro to every Bon Jovi song ever, but I know it's not Bon Jovi.
It's not.
Beautiful day.
Close.
The sun is shining. I feel good. No one's gonna stop me now.
You know what feeling I'm talking about. You've been a sports fan that's had a good moment.
I haven't had much success as a sports fan.
Your team just won the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
What are you talking about?
And the World Series
And the
2 years
World
ago.
Series. What are you talking about? All right. But you know what I'm talking about. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining, and I feel good. Or I didn't know what song intro to use because it was either, wow, yeah, I just woke up, birds are shining, it's a beautiful day, or if I just wanted to use sitting on top of the world. Because right now, everything is great. I was telling you I was telling the listeners yesterday, we were talking about the fact I had that band concert that ended perfectly, where I got out at 8:30, popped the game up on my phone.
You went home and got your orange crate.
Yes, absolutely. And so I didn't miss any of the game, and the comeback was just, incredible. But again, now it's going to Cleveland. And first off, let me ask you this, because I'm not going to play the other song. Let's get right to the basketball part of this. What LeBron James did in that game last night was unbelievable. The 42 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds. I mean, it was a triple-double. He's done that before. He was amazing. He's unstoppable. When you watch him, you realize why he is considered the greatest player in basketball right now. But the gap, and especially in the second half, the way his team didn't shoot well and didn't play really good defense, these two teams are almost the polar opposites of one another.
Right.
When it comes to, you got this group who just sells out, team first, and then a group of guys who are like, well, LeBron James is the best player on the team, and we're going to make sure that he gets what he can, and hopefully we don't get in the way. And it was interesting to hear Van Gundy on the call last night kind of call out the fact that these guys are eye-rolling each other on the Cavaliers.
Yeah, the line
can't
was
stand each other.
Right, the line was more eye rolls than a couple in a bad marriage.
Yes. So you got a team that is playing together, and it's great to watch. Obviously, I'm enjoying it because I'm a Celtic fan. And then you've got this team that is completely falling apart. And it was interesting to hear Van Gundy and Mark Jackson talk about that last night about if this is it, entertaining the idea of if this is the end of the run that Cleveland's had of the straight, the consecutive finals, don't go out like this. Don't go out where you're eye-rolling each other and you sort of what a terrible way for this Cleveland, arguably, despite the fact that I would tell people how much I enjoyed that Cleveland team that had Craig Elo and Brad Daugherty and the original Larry Nance, great Cleveland team. This has to go down in history as the greatest Cleveland team ever because they brought home a championship to Cleveland that had been eluding that city for 48 years?
Yeah, but that's not this team at all.
No, because
there's like 3 people left from that team.
And a big piece of that team is sitting on the other bench.
Right.
In street clothes.
Yeah. So I was not actually that impressed by LeBron last night. I understand he had a 42-point triple-double, and the numbers on that look really good. But when you watch that game, he came out guns blazing, 20 points in the first quarter. I think he hit 4 3-pointers. I think it was in the first half, and that's when I knew in my mind, okay, this game is going to go to Boston. There was not you called it a comeback. I don't even think it was a comeback. It was a slow crawl back into the game.
They were up by 10. I wasn't ever super afraid because I was like, 10 points is not impossible.
And they slowly picked their way back into it, playing Boston Celtics basketball that we've grown so appreciative of in these playoffs. They were just solid, consistent, and they stuck to their game plan. They played it. When LeBron James, this has been a theme throughout his career, and I think it's a real knock on him because as his career has progressed and he has developed this three-point shot, which is a great weapon, obviously, and it's something he didn't have early on in his career. It's something he built. When he gets hot like that, he falls in love with the three-point shot, and we saw him just keep throwing up threes, and they didn't go for him the rest of the game the way they were in the first quarter. When LeBron scores 20 points in the first quarter, and he has one of the most special first quarters we've seen ever, I think, in basketball, and it's sort of what we all expected from him, but then he turns around and only puts up 22 points the rest of the game, and I know still 22 points is nothing to slouch at, but they need more than 22 points the rest of the game from LeBron James when you have all these other guys that are giving you nothing. George Hill and J.R. Smith combined for 60 minutes on the court last night. Do you know how many points they added to the total? 3 points from those guys, okay? Between all of the guys they picked up in the offseason, or in that trade, the Rodney Hood, the Jordan Clarksons, the J.R. or the Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance, they all combined for 3 points. There's nobody else on this team that's doing anything outside of maybe a little bit from Kevin Love, maybe a little bit from Tristan Thompson. Kyle Korver was poorly underused last night. He played just 21 minutes and shot 4 from 8 beyond the arc. And J.R. Smith went going 0 for 7 from the floor last night, played 27 minutes. So I'm going to put that on Tyronn Lue. But I was not impressed with LeBron James. First quarter, yes. Rest of the game, no. He got tired. He looks tired, and I don't blame him for that. And I'm not saying LeBron isn't a good player, but I think he kind of failed his team because once they started to fall behind, he has this problem of being very emotional. And you're talking about the thing that Jeff Van Gundy said about everybody eye-rolling each other. LeBron's just as big a culprit that as anybody. Do you think if somebody started eye-rolling on the Celtics that Al Horford would stand for that at all?
It's interesting. I don't know if anybody feels like they're when you don't have it on your team, I don't even think you think about it. I don't think you even have to worry about it because you just buy into the fact, listen, we're not going to go out there and carry ridiculous stuff out on the floor. I mean, when I see that, I see a team that's got a lot of unresolved issues. I see a team that is exhausted. It starts from the leader LeBron James, who I will still tell you is a great player, and I'm not here to debate whether there's a lot of people that want to go ahead and put Kevin Durant as the greatest player in the league currently, whatever. LeBron James is a great player, but he looks exhausted. He looks exhausted. One, from carrying this team on his back all season long, carrying, honestly, a lot of the Cleveland franchise partially on his back before Kyrie. I do think that I hope this year was a lesson to LeBron James that you can chase all the great individual accolades and the ghosts and goats you want to. But if you want to win individual accomplishments, go ahead. Enjoy that. That was the third time you had a 40-point triple-double in your career. You lost 2 of 3 of those games. Chasing the individual accolades as a Russell Westbrook has been doing.
Do you think
for
he's
the past
chasing
2
it,
years.
though? I don't think he's chasing the.
I think on this particular team, he's got no other choice because
Right, but
nobody else is really going to put up those stats.
Right, but I feel like there's a difference in chasing it when we compare it to Russell Westbrook, who we know was just going for the
He's
Oscar
straight out
Robertson
chasing
record.
it.
Right.
But I think his chase of being the individual greatness is what led to him pushing Kyrie away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that, yes, I don't think he chases a lot of these because, let's face it, and Norwood says this all the time. It's all about rings to LeBron James. And this year's got to feel like the biggest waste. First time he played 82-game season, he might not even make it to the NBA Finals, which will break this long streak. And again, most people feel like he won't even be back in Cleveland. But I think
he's definitely not coming back to Cleveland. And that fate was sealed. And honestly, I think the fate of the series was sealed yesterday before the opening tip. I think it was sealed during the NBA draft lottery when Cleveland got stuck with the 8th overall pick in the upcoming NBA draft. I think somebody whispered to LeBron, like, hey, we didn't really get up in the top 5. Like, we're down at number 8. So, you know, if you just want to go ahead and call this a season.
It further makes Danny Ainge just this because that's the pick that they traded to Cleveland for Kyrie Irving, essentially. That was the biggest asset in that deal was the draft pick because
everybody else is gone.
Isaiah Thomas is gone.
Right.
That ends up being the number 8 pick, which is, I mean, you got it's a hard one to get right because you got to get it perfectly right. We've seen value,
right,
but it's not. You know, if it's 1, 2, or 3, you feel like you're a lot closer to making. That you won't miss so bad. But at number 8, we've seen that's pretty close to purgatory land.
Right. You can get lucky on a couple of guys, but that's you mentioned Kyrie, and I think Kyrie needs to seriously be considered. And we were joking earlier about the possibility, like, okay, is this Boston team better with Kyrie? And that's not really what I'm trying to say here, but that's a fun notion to entertain.
It's ridiculous.
But I still think, despite sitting over on the bench, Kyrie Irving is the MVP this postseason for the Boston Celtics. And you go back to whatever that Russian guy who used to own the Brooklyn Nets, Prokhorov or something like that.
Yeah.
He's really the MVP for the Boston Celtics, and the reason they're
because
so
he
good.
bought Pierce and Garnett and gave us all those draft picks.
The Brooklyn Nets, I think, still don't have any of their first-round draft picks. Like I think they have 1 or 2 more years before they start getting their own first-round draft picks left. If you go and look at what Boston still has asset-wise for the next 2 or 3 years, it's insane. They have the potential to have 4 first-round picks next year. Boston, 4 first-round picks next year with everything they're doing this year, with everything they're going to have back next year. But Kyrie Irving, the real MVP for this season for these Boston Celtics, because he is the guy that forced the trade and then just left a completely cancerous situation there in Cleveland. And you saw them try to make the Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder experiment and all of that work.
Yes.
It didn't, and that forced Kobe Altman's hand at the trade deadline, and everybody was ready to sing his praises like, wow, look at this. He won the trade deadline. Look at all these moves he made. He completely shook it up. Now the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to walk through the East. And like I said earlier, all those guys they acquired didn't contribute literally a thing yesterday. I don't even think Jordan Clarkson got in the game last night. So hats off to Kyrie Irving for just being a little bit of a saboteur and just wrecking this Cavaliers team this season.
And it's interesting, too. Remember Danny Ainge, crucified almost. Why didn't you make a move? You had those picks. Trade those picks. What are you doing? What are you doing? Kyrie's hurt. You got to trade him. Nonetheless.
I would trade Kyrie. Scary Terry, Marcus Smart.
The only
Monday
way,
Night Crush.
I told you, and I don't even want to try to venture into even thinking this. You're still not even through the Eastern Conference Finals yet. But the only way you entertain the idea of trading Kyrie Irving is if somehow they hoist number 18 this year. And that's the only way I entertain that idea. And listen, we've got plenty to talk about. We're going to try to do headlines next, but there's plenty more basketball to talk,
They're
including
so much better without Kyrie. They're so much better. They share the ball.
They do. They do. It's an interesting theory that we will discuss at length now that we won't have another game between these two teams until Saturday. So we have plenty of time to hype that up. Plenty of time. Let's do this. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll drag. Oh, yeah. Like I got to explain to everybody. Let's hurry up and do this. We are only going to be here for 2 hours today because there is day baseball in our nation's capital. Yankees and Nationals played last night. They didn't get wrapped up. Mother Nature had other plans. It's tied up 3 apiece in the 6th inning. They're going to pick that game up at 5:05 today. We'll send you out to that. And then they're planning on playing game 2 in the completion of that series tonight at 7. So you'll have coverage of that. And then once they wrap up the baseball, off to Houston for game 2 of the Western Conference Final between the Rockets and Warriors. So a great lineup of sports on 252 ESPN Radio, a condensed version of The Drive, which is what you're listening to right now, which is about to take a short break. Sam, are you ready for that break?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll take a break and do headlines next.